Good morning, everyone. I call this meeting on the Portsmouth Economic Development Authority to order. Well, we welcome everyone today and thank you for your presence here. And we will go through our agenda as we normally do. We will start with our roll call. Mr. Dunn.
Good morning. Mr. Barber.
Present.
Ms. Drury.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Present.
Mrs. Smith. And Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. And at this time, before we get started, we're gonna get a few preliminaries over. We have a few bright, shiny faces, new bright, shiny faces in here. So we want to give way for that. All right.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to share with the board this morning, we do have some new team members in attendance today. So we'd like to make an introduction, one of which has stepped out of the room to handle the matter, but certainly want to recognize our newest team member, which is Miss Amy Tracy. Amy is joining us from the Richmond region. She started last Monday. She's our new business development specialist. As you're aware, we're working to build staff back up, and she's our most recent team member to have us join the team here. The other is Edie Frazier. She is filling in as a temporary position for Angie Shepard, who departed the city in July. Angie left to take employment elsewhere in the region, and we are in the process of hiring her replacement right now. So you may have heard from Ms. Frazier over the last month or so, and she has been very able and capable of stepping in to fill the space that Angie held temporarily. So just wanted to share that with you, that we've got some new faces and names. I want to make you aware of that.
Okay. Chair. And we will continue on.
The June 27th annual meeting minutes were included in your package that was emailed out on Friday. If there are any questions, be happy to take questions or comments, but we are in need of a motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barber and a second by Mrs. Saunders Smith. I'll leave the roll. Mr. Barber.
Aye.
Ms. Drury.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
And Chairman Smith.
Yes.
The minutes are adopted by a vote of 6-0. Our next item is the financial report for the month of June. And we have Ms. Patty Phillips from our finance department here to present.
Hey, good morning. I'm going to just hit the highlights again, as I usually do, but of course, any questions that come up now or later, just let me know. I'm going to focus on the June 30, 2022 column, just your total cash from at all places, including Atlantic Union, Bank of America, and Town Bank, is $9,090,532 in total. The other thing that changed is you'll see that your property held for resale dropped by $6.4 million because it reflects the sales and the decrease of your inventory. Unrestricted net position increased $8.4 million, primarily as a result of your land sales. Let's now go to the statement of revenues and expenses. I'll just highlight sale of land, $15,903,870, and there is a list of the individual sales if you need to see that. The related cost of that land is $6,689,000. The other thing I wanted to highlight was your grants this year. You have approved $405,811 in total grants, and I think that you have a list of all those grants. We have the individual amounts You'll see interest expense went down because you paid out your loans, before the end of the year. So you'll see again, change in that position, 8,512,946. If I went too fast, let me know.
Any questions? Ann?
Just on the sale, so the profit total was 9 million between the asset value and the sale price.
Yes, that's just
Okay.
basically the gross. And let's see, I have a breakout here. Basically, it is the related assets, just the gross profit.
Are there any other questions on the June financials? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to old business. And the first item is the RFP for commercial real estate services. Just want to provide you an update on the status of the procurement of a commercial real estate broker to work on behalf of the EDA. That process is nearing completion. We are currently finalizing the negotiation of the contract to make an award. And my understanding is that that is currently under review with the broker. So we're hopeful that will wrap up here hopefully this week. And then we'll be prepared to bring that back for the board's approval to enter into a contract and make an award. So that's where we are with that. It has been a somewhat lengthy process. I do apologize for the length of time it's taken. I think we originally commenced this back in the May timeframe, but we are nearing completion and hope to have something in the contract here very soon. Councilman Bell.
So what we're saying is we're gonna hire a commercial real estate
Yes, sir.
company to
Correct. That is historically we have had the EDA has had a commercial real estate broker as a representative for marketing and assisting in selling property that it has owned.
has the agreement been made yet?
The agreement is currently being negotiated.
Okay. I'd like to get a copy of the negotiation. Well, the final figures.
Yes, sir. And this will actually include, in addition to disposition of property,
Well,
acquisition as well.
right.
Just to be
Well, not just let me see the agreement. What's being paid, what other payments are made for other services, the complete scope of the services and the payments.
we can provide that.
I have a question for who are the finalists being considered for the contract? Or is that something we could discuss?
Because the
Not yet.
procurement process is technically still ongoing, we're not able to disclose that, but that will be part of your final review approval
Who gets,
of the contract.
Right,
gets
right.
the
We need to provide any,
bids?
most of us know, but any explanation as to why we went in this direction. Because we felt
So
that
I'd like to see all,
we would pay more if we were representing
when,
rather than having an outside service represent us. I'm comfortable with that.
I understand. They do it for people. And I don't like the- City manager.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, that I want.
Councilman Battle, if you wouldn't mind, maybe Brian can just give you a little bit of an explanation as to why we went in this direction versus the way we used to do it. It might be helpful with the background, unless you know why already.
The direction for.
Why we went with an outside service representing the city versus EDA representing.
Oh.
Because it was
Well,
done,
that's-
it was done by the staff. And we felt it was a better way to do
I
it.
know. It's okay. Mhm.
We don't need to know the city's wanting to buy something.
So in terms of timelines, this is going to be something we're going to revisit in September. That will be the opportunity for the contract to be presented, reviewed, and ultimately requesting your approval. Next item is the 2022 Business Investment Grant Program. We wanted to provide an update on the progress we've made. We did wrap up the fiscal year as of June 30th. So right now we are working to disperse funds to the recipients of these grants. We have provided this information in your package. Those were the June financials. I do have numbers for July. We've made a little bit more progress over the last month in deploying these funds. And just to do a quick recap, the Real Property Investment Grant Program, we had 5 recipients that were awarded funds totaling just over $218,000 under the program. Again, this ran from January 1st of 2022. We closed the program in April at the end of the month and have been working to deploy the funds. We have about 80,000 left to still disperse, and we're currently processing those disbursements with the applicants. And you will notice a lot of this work around the city. If you drive through town, you will see a lot of the progress that's been made from the real estate investment side on a number of properties throughout the city, 15. Your next program is a Smart Start Business Investment Grant Program. We have completed the disbursement of funds. We provided $59,000 in funding to 30 businesses in the city under the Smart Start Business Investment Grant Program. Again, this is to assist startups and new businesses between 0 and 3 years of existence with getting up and running in Portsmouth. So we help 30 businesses in that 6-month time span to do just that. And then the third program is your Smart Start Business Acceleration Grant. We assisted 11 businesses, providing a total of $55,000 in funding. We are wrapping up the disbursement of funds. We have about $25,000 left to get to the applicants, and they are currently in the process of submitting their payment documentation to obtain these funds. And again, the acceleration grant is for businesses between 3 and 7 years of existence, really helping them with their expansion needs and assisting with their growth in the city. We are now in the process of reviewing the program guidelines for each of these 3 programs. We have discussed the relaunch of the programs in fiscal year 23. What I am anticipating and hopeful of is that beginning in October, the second quarter of the fiscal year, we will relaunch the program. We now have additional staff on board to assist in administering the programs. There's one thing I would like to ask, Chairman, is that the EDA appoint some ad hoc committee representatives to assist in reviewing those guidelines so that we can bring them back in September for updating. We've had a few items that have, I think, come to the board's attention that you wanted to revisit. We've got a few tweaks that staff would like to make as well to improve the programs. So if it's acceptable to you, I'd ask that we could appoint a couple of board members to help us with that process.
Okay. We'll do that.
Brian, of the 3 programs, are there plenty of candidates in the pipeline even now, or there is, of the 3 programs, are there any ones that just haven't been a recent flow?
We have several businesses that we've been working with on each of the programs that are anticipating the program being launched again, that we've been working with. They are preparing their applications, and we are also working with some of our partners in the community, which would include the Small Business Development Center, Black Brand as well, which is a nonprofit that assists individuals with starting businesses. So we're working closely with them. They have cohorts that they train and assist annually, quarterly. So there will be individuals, a pipeline of individuals in the future ready to submit applications.
I noticed in the first program, there were 3 businesses that have still waiting funding. Is that a holdup on our side, or do they need to submit information? Are we waiting for something from them to?
Are you referring to the real estate program? Is that correct?
Yeah, there was 2 restaurants and another business in the first slide that you showed.
Right. Yes, sir. We have, I can tell you, I have a stack on my desk that have submitted their receipts that we're processing now. And then we have a few businesses that have not yet finished the work, but they're in the process of doing so. So it's a combination.
Can I ask one question? The slide that you have for the incentive program, I think it ended on June in 2021, the 300,000. Who has Helping Hands for Heroes? Who's the owner? Because I see it, that's like down 3 or 4 times. It was the slide, the $25,000 is approved, but it's $317,000 at the end of it. City of Portsmouth Economic Development Authority, Local Incentive Program Financial Report. At the top, it says funding amount 300,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong grant.
2021.
Yeah, so you're referring to the local incentive program, which was last year's program. Helping Hands for Heroes, they were the recipient of 3 different grants through the local incentive program. There was a interior build-out grant, a facade improvement grant, and then a safety and security grant. They were the recipient of all 3 of those. The owner of that business is Ms. Kiana Childs. She has come before the EDA on prior occasions, and she was also the recipient of an additional incentive grant.
Okay.
What we did this past fiscal year is we rolled all 3 of those programs into one, so we now just have the real estate investment grant.
Makes sense.
Trying to simplify the number of applications and the process overall. So that, but I'm hoping that answers your question about the multiple
Absolutely.
grants.
Okay, thank you.
Could I make a suggestion or ask, and I don't want to add more work on because I know you guys are so busy right now. But for the future, just for us to be able to evaluate the Smart Start development one, since those are businesses that are just starting out, is there a way to, I don't know, like long-term track on, did they continue to be a business? Because, we're giving them the seed money to start them. So I think we would want to look down the line to see, how our investment paid off.
Yeah, let's hold that for future.
Okay.
With the staff being short.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I know
lot
that's
of work.
a lot right now.
So, you can make a note of that.
I quickly just respond, yes, to answer your question. We will be working to track that. One of the ways we would do that would be through ongoing business retention efforts to be in communication with those businesses and periodically check in to see how they're doing. So we would be following up on that.
Because we already tracking, the types of businesses as far as, diversity and addressing, those issues. So we do know, matter of fact, the majority of those, that money went to minorities and
Oh, yeah, no, it's
women
great.
businesses are something that we set goals to try to do. So, and that'll be helpful information too that you asked. Okay.
We are now moving forward to the new business items on your agenda, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Groom, who has a Portsmouth at Work update to provide you some information on the year end and some of the pretty amazing things that Ms. Krim and her team have been doing here at Portsmouth at work.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we wanted to give you the year ending data for the program and let you know where we landed and to give you some updates on what's going to be taking place this fiscal year. So we served, we do ask a lot of qualifying tracking data information, and one of the ones is, of course, male versus female. So as we see, 74% of our participants were female, 24% were male, and 2% preferred not to respond. 94% of our participants are Black, 4% white, and 2% represented as other. Our largest age group is between the ages of 16 and 30 at 53%. Our 31 to 45 category came in at 28%. Our older adults, which are 46 and over, at 16%, and 3% of the individuals did not answer the question. So we wanted to start taking deeper dives, since this is actually going to be our third year in existence, start taking a deeper dive in some of the other data points for the program. So this was how many of our participants were actually head of household, who are actually unemployed, seeking to return to the workforce. So 88% of our participants are considered the head of household. So that is significant and important, because that means they're going back to work. And that's what we want to see, is that our residents are going back to work. I'm sorry, 6% was head of household and 88% was no. Sorry, wrong way. That's not good. So we want to see that decrease. Sorry, that'll become one of our data points. That's why I picked that up. Sorry. And 5% of them were unknown. Head of household, meaning that they are primarily the income receiver in the household, and 88% of these individuals were not, which is understandable because of the large 16 to 30 category that we actually served. Sorry, brain was in another place this morning. Another data point that we wanted to look at were those out of poverty. So we are working with 72% of those individuals that were at or below poverty rate. And 25% of those our individuals were not, and then 3% did not answer the question. That is important because we're lifting individuals out of poverty, and that's what we want to see. So our program registrants, I was so excited when we put all the data together from the quarters, because we do it by quarter for our CDBG process. So we actually we touched 677 Portsmouth residents, with 468 of them completing their the completers are the job training programs. So we have a 69% completion rate, which is exciting for a fairly new program. Last year was our first time really delving down into hard skill job training programs. So we were excited for that. Our workplace readiness, for the most part, everyone completes a workplace readiness. That's your soft skills training. We want to make sure that our participants are ready to go to work. We know from our employers that the biggest issue are soft skills, understanding you got to come to work, you got to call in when you're going to be late or you're not coming in, things of that nature, how to work with your fellow coworkers. Our work from home program was another successful program, understanding that a lot of parents could not return to work last year and continuing into this year, or finding that it was easier for them to work from home and not have to worry about childcare. So all but 3 completed our work from home program, and the work from home program also ends in employment. There are a plethora of jobs available. As I've told you before, an individual is not just based here in Portsmouth or this state. They can be working anywhere in the country. Our Smart Start entrepreneurship program, of course, was tied to the grant and helping to lift up those individuals that wanted to start their own business, or those that were having issues with finding employment, but had skills and abilities to actually start a business. 98% of those completed. Our HRT bus operator, we had 5 to register. Unfortunately, they did not qualify for the training program. That will come back online this year. We hope for a little more success with that. We work with Tidewater staff in trying to find employment and immediately get individuals to work. So we did have 9 to complete. Of the 11, the Smart Start Credential is really a twofold program. The Smart Start Credential gives you 4 certifications, which show an employer that you're ready to work, that you are actually trainable. The National Career Readiness certification is what you receive in that program. And with that, what it does is it tells you exactly what your skills and abilities are and what industry you're suited to work in. We use that mostly for the casino and right now, but anyone can come in and take advantage of that program. The NCRC is through ACT, the College Readiness organization, who has profiled 88% of the jobs in the country. So their data is pretty solid on that. That credential is also important for our maritime industry. Anyone who receives that certification on the front end is pretty much guaranteed a job in the maritime industry as long as they show up, because if you know a little bit about the maritime industry, they used to require that. That was a requirement in order to work for any maritime employer. You used to have to take it on the front end. Now they don't so much as require it. They do for some jobs, but it's important for our residents to have that. So we know that we pretty much can get them hired straight out the door. Our Start Hospitality, of course, is around the hotel industry and the casino. We had 22 of the 27 individuals complete that program. Our call center agent kind of doubled as a customer service training program and then ended in a call center certification. So we have 45 registered, 24 completed. The others were at a point of either they haven't returned, we can't get them to come in to take the certification side, or they're not interested in taking the certification side. The Cdl Class A, don't be alarmed. If you recall, I gave you the information. Yes, 118 people and only 9 completed. It's because they didn't meet the qualifications for the program. And there are very specifics that the industry, an employer will require. You can't have a laundry list of things. And it's not all tied, it's tied to your driving record. The biggest piece was there are too many speeders around here, is what it was. And so we are remediating them. They can go to defensive driving classes to bring up their, get their positive points in place. And they can take the classroom side, but they won't be able to take the driving side, is what it ends up being. So they're still in the pipeline. The vast majority of them, we are looking for providers that aren't so stringent, but the backside to that is going to be the employment side if you have a lot of negative points. The 9 that completed, all completed on the first try, and was very successful. We did have 2 individuals that actually went before they came for the program and saw how tough it was. And so they're waiting to get into the program.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The testing part of it, are they having difficulty with that all as well?
They are when they don't go to class. So the 9 didn't, because they went to class and they were able to be successful that way.
Because I know it's a lot of tests involved in getting a CDL.
It is. There are 3 components to just get to the permit side. And the general knowledge is the largest component of that. There's 250 questions, and you have a probability of 150 are randomly picked for you to actually have to answer. And you have to get past general knowledge to get to the other two components of that.
There's such a big demand for that.
It is a huge demand for CDL, yes.
What's the entity providing the training? Who's providing the CDL training?
So we have two providers for our CDL program. We have ATI and 160 Driving Academy.
That's why it's so strict. ATI is a very strict program.
ATI is a little strict. It's not, but they base it off of getting you employed because their success rate is also the employment side. I can get you through class, but if you're not going to get employed, you bring down my success rate. So if you're not employable, an employer cannot hire you with anything below a -3 points, no matter what. It doesn't matter where you go to school. Your driving record is what's important. So that's what we are working with a lot of when they come in, is helping them to understand that. We do require their driving record on the front end before we set anybody up for disappointment. They have to sign the disqualifier sheet as well.
So can I ask, so the ones that when they come in and their driving record, there's just no way. Are we then putting them or, helping them to go into another career and another one, like say building trades or something where?
We do try to remediate in that fashion. A lot of times that's the only thing that they want. So they walk back out the door because that's what they wanted to have. We try to push them down to the HRT program because it's not as stringent to get a Class B as it is to get a Class A.
Okay.
Our building trades still has not kicked off yet. The 6 are in other programs right now. And our healthcare was just overwhelmingly successful. 168 participants, 151 of them have completed. We have about 12 that are at the end. They're in their clinicals, so we're waiting for that great news from those individuals. And then I left my little cheat sheet. There's a few that have not. They actually had to stop their program and hopefully we'll restart and finish this fiscal year. And then our 12 forklift, there was not a reason for us to actually pay for the forklift program because TCC has monies available to pay for those individuals. So those individuals were sent over to TCC for the program. So we try to be very frugal, fiscally responsible, try to make sure that we are kind of a last resort for an individual for the funding so it can impact as many as possible. And so I gave our metrics the last time, but just wanted to remind you the year over year where we're at and what you want to see. And of course, what we want to see each year is our median household income increase. We want to see our per capita income increase. We want to see our persons in poverty decrease. And then this is informational purposes, our Alice household, and those are households who do not qualify for public assistance. They're right on the bubble. We want to see this actually decrease as well to the best of our ability, which is why we have a focus on individuals who are underemployed and not just unemployed, to try to help them so that our median household income and per capita income increases. So our new programs and announcements this fiscal year, Youth Build, if you're familiar, is a at-risk training program for our youth 16 to 24. It is targeted for those individuals specifically who did not receive a high school diploma to, one, get them their high school diploma or GED, and to train them in the trades. So they will actually be trained in all 4 trades: HVAC, carpentry, electrical, and plumbing, and then they get to pick a specialty. This is a 6-month commitment program. where they come out with that, their NCCER, which is the requirement to get to their specialty program, which is your safety training course for any construction industry job, their GED, and then their certification in their specific chosen field. Registration is ongoing right now. Their first class will begin on October the 10th, and then their program start date is the 14th. They'll go through a mental toughness training before they start their class. Yes, sir.
How is this information being distributed to the public, to the youth in the community?
So I have pushed it out to all of the partners that I have. The city has pushed it out. We have people that have been handing it out on the street. PRHA, of course, has been a great help. They are actually distributing the flyers throughout their communities, social services. And so it's on social media, and we're just, anybody can push it. Anybody that needs flyers, just let me know and we can get it sent out. What ends up happening
in
is
mainstream media, advertisement, radio, television commercials that target the people that actually going to benefit from this program, or this program that's going to use this program?
No. I can send it to NSU because it's free, but I'm not a nonprofit. Sometimes that's the hindrance, and then it costs.
What's the maximum capacity of people you can train?
The maximum capacity for each cohort is 25.
Did you finish that?
Yes, I'm done.
The other piece to this, the individuals will receive their GED here in Portsmouth with the Portsmouth Adult Education Department, but their training will be in Newport News. We are transporting them to Newport News for the training portion. So they go 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, as a full-time job. The other good piece of this, of course, as you see, they receive a stipend each week of $150 in the program. Understanding it's a long commitment, but it's also an incentive to get our young people to come into the program.
Who's funding this?
We are in the Department of Labor. So we have a match. The Department of Labor, to give full disclosure, Newport News was the community that received the U.S. Department of Labor's grant to provide youth field. We were approached to add Portsmouth to that grant. And if so, we had to send some support letters. Department of Labor had to agree. The Department of Labor evaluated Portsmouth, agreed to add it to the grant. So our match really equates to the stipend.
And that's the city pays that. Or
The CDBG
CDBG.
CDBG funds are paying for this program. Our medical, as we saw, our medical program was a huge success. And so, but it only targeted specific healthcare providers. So what we wanted to do was add the office administration side to the program, because there are a lot of individuals that we actually encountered who had been in the profession but wanted to transition to the office side of healthcare. And then there are those that have an interest of working. I mean, healthcare is a huge industry. It's not going anywhere. It's not slowing down. They do need that administrative side. So we have added 12 new medical certifications. As you see by the numbers, there's still short-term training programs to get an individual trained and to work within a 2 to 3 month time period. All of them in certification, they all are also attached to employers in our community. The pharmacy tech position, the specialist, the difference between the pharmacy tech specialist and the pharmacy tech is sometimes an individual works within the pharmacy industry, but they don't want to become a pharmacy tech, but they need the information. So you can actually do that program. And then the tech position actually gives you the certification to work in the pharmacy. At the pharmacy tech specialist, it mirrors well with the medication aid program is what it is, really. It's a step up with that. And the pharmacy tech program ends with an externship first with either CVS or Walgreens will be where they will automatically do their externship. And then the others, we have other employers, of course, Maryview, Centera, and local doctor's offices that are in need of employees. Yes, ma'am.
Great program. One that I don't see up there that I understand that there is a shortage in Hampton Roads and in Portsmouth is dental hygienist.
Yes, so the dental hygienist is cost prohibitive for our program, but it's also available through TCC. So we try not to compete with some of the programs. They would end up needing to get a little more in service for a dental assistant than we can provide. But we will continue to examine, much like we examine these, we'll continue to look. But we knew that the CDL, we have actually a lot of those individuals on the wait list. They were waiting for the funding. If you recall, I came to you all back in February about a deficiency I had in funding. So trying to service those that were in the pipeline and try to bring in those new residents as well. So our program outreach, we continue once again working with Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority, social services, our public schools, and adult ed. The adult ed piece, what we'll end up doing is a lot of our programs to try to get our individuals, our older adults that do not have their high school diploma, is attaching our programs to that GED. And them seeing that ability to get, if they get their high school diploma, they can go into a job. And of course, with the City Managers Rock the Block program, we were at, what was it, Prentice Park? Y'all have to forgive me, I'm still learning. And so we were at that interest or information meeting. We're working with the community centers and public libraries. They actually all have signage and flyers at their locations. And then social media, the Davis agency is assisting in the fact that they're handling all of our paid advertisement, making ads on social media. So it's not just depending on those coming to our pages, but actually getting into those social media feeds of individuals. And then our city marketing department, of course, is anytime we have programs, they push it out on their social media sites through the Port City newsletter as well. And so that concludes my presentation.
Can I?
Lots of hands.
Chair,
Sorry. Last year when you did the presentation, one thing that stood out to us was the high percentage of female to male. And we talked about young males and how, especially in Portsmouth, to get the young males into the program, but also to complete it. So I didn't exactly, was the number you showed, the 74% to the 24, was that just in the program or was that the completion?
That's in the program, of the 677 that
Okay.
actually came.
So
through
are
the
we
program.
seeing that the numbers for young men are completing it more than they did the year prior? No?
No.
Okay. Do we have thoughts why, or?
I think it's because we're not reaching them, we're not talking to them. A lot of people that this message needs to go to, they don't follow. I don't know what Davis agency is doing, but a lot of the people the message needs to reach, they don't follow Portsmouth City website. They don't follow the economic development website on social media, so they're not going to be privy to that information.
Which is the point. They are paying for ads. They don't have to follow us. They're paying for ads to get into.
Right, but are the ads specifically targeting the right demographic?
Yes. It's going to be, this just began. This is new.
Mhm.
Or, continued and new. So the Davis Agency outreach is new this fiscal year to do that. We have had individuals bring in our young people into the program to try to get them registered and to participate. They just don't. It's not for a lack of trying and a lack of trying on some of our other citizens, some of our other citizens who are attempting PRHA, who's actually banging on doors out in the community. Their youth engagement person is actually who's working specifically with the youth or actually giving them this information, but getting them to actually sign up. They don't have to come here. We have a total agreement with PRHA to provide our programs out at PRHA. So they don't have to come here, but they're not registering. They're not signing up. It's a stigma. Some of it's a stigma. I can't, until they tell us why, I have an inkling of a little information of why, but I also have to caution you that anyone 16 and under are considered compulsory. I can't touch them. They are required to be in school. So unless Portsmouth Public Schools releases them as a student, I can't do a thing with them. So that is the understanding that has to be known, is that nobody, it doesn't matter whose program it is, if they are considered compulsory, they have to go to school. So they do have ISEP in the schools where understanding there's a lot of barriers with our young people where they're not in traditional 8-block day classes. ISEP actually is in Manor, where they actually attend class together in one place. They don't change classes and things of that nature. It's the alternative program to keep them in high school. But what I found with working with a group of about 10 of them was getting a parent to go and put them back in school, to actually register them back in school. A parent has to get you back in school. No one can register you for school other than a parent or a legal guardian. Is some of that, but I'm gonna leave it to Raiden, Mr. Smith to call on, because I know two other hands. And
Malcolm was next.
On your 68% completion rate, how many of those
give me my percentage, 69.
69%, 468 people. How many of those people actually obtained a job? Were you able to track that?
So we are tracking that to the best of our ability. It's very sporadic because we have to chase individuals to get the information, although they're required to give it to us. So we did want to put it up there because we don't have a great handle on it right now. But everyone that came out of the healthcare, with the exception of 6, are employed. I do know that. The others have been more difficult to, besides the 9 CDL as well. All 9 of the CDL obtainers are employed.
Is it possible to incentivize that? So for example, you get a $10 gas card if you provide us with your employment, because I think that's important. A lot of upfront work has been done. What is it netting us? And if it's a small incentive to get people to provide us with that information, I think it would be worth it.
Absolutely. I don't have a problem incentivizing individuals. It does, my issue becomes last year I spent all the money.
I understand.
I've got a match this year, so every dollar counts to at least get them trained so that they are employable. But at some point, hopefully we'll look at what are some other ways we can do that. Maybe we can get some sponsors or something of that nature to provide some funding so it doesn't all hit the EDA's budget.
Mr.
Just 2 things. I love this. I think it's really wonderful. And I think the more people that find out about it would definitely become involved. Also, is there an online feedback? So, a lot of times if I go in Lowe's, if I go anywhere, I always get this online feedback for how was my purchase, how was my whatever, ups and downs. So I only am referring to that as to say, if you don't want to chase them down and you have their email, maybe to create an online feedback survey or something that just kind of pushes it out without giving you the headache of trying to chase them down. But one other thing, when I was in high school many years ago, 16 and over, once you got your driver's license, I used to take a business class. And we had the option of going to a business in high school, as long as you had a car, to do almost like an internship if you took certain classes. I'm not sure if the schools still do that, but if that is an option, is that something that could be considered for that group that you're trying to attach to, especially where it relates to the young men in that age group? Because we all know at that time, they either trying to skip school or do something probably different. So is there an outreach that we could help you with as far as with the schools to see if that program still exists for that age group, to see if we can push them to this program versus TCC? Because I know they used to go to TCC. My nephew, my niece, they all did that. Is this something that we might consider being able to do to help?
So your first question regarding the survey, we do the survey and then we chase them. When they don't complete the survey, we chase them to try to either get the answer or have them take the survey. So that's one. Two, the program in which you speak is actually under the Hampton Roads Workforce Council Next Gen. They actually have the big bucks and the federal dollars, and Next Gen is that program. Portsmouth actually has 75 slots allotted to them through that funding. And they have had difficulties actually filling those slots. Last year, communities and schools actually received a grant of close to $200,000 to specifically work within Portsmouth to target the 16 to 24-year-olds who had not completed high school and did not have their GED or high school diploma. And given that they are out in the community and out in our schools and had a better chance of actually being able to target those individuals, they got one. So it is not that things aren't happening in this community, that there isn't money being thrown at the issue. There are a lot of hands in this pot, and there's a lot of work being done. But a lot of times it still comes back to the parent and them actually signing, or a legal guardian actually signing paperwork so that the young people can participate in the program.
Okay, Ms. Winston.
I just wanted to again thank you for the partnership with the Housing Authority. It's been very instrumental in getting our residents employed. I do want to ask, how are criminal backgrounds a barrier to the success of employment and the training programs, and then how is that remedied?
So criminal backgrounds, it depends. Everything is a case by case situation. We have several employers attached to the program. You can have a background and get employed. The hardest category we have, which we don't see, I have not had to deal with the issue, are those who have assault or rape. They are harder to actually receive employment, and we haven't seen any of those individuals through our program, but we have several programs and employers that will work with an individual with a background. You can get your CDL and have a background.
Anthony,
She kind of touched on what I was going to ask, but are you partnering with the Sheriff's Department in any way to offer these to the 18 and 17s, the people that don't need parental permission to that's re-entering after minor offenses?
We work with the Sheriff's Office through the Portsmouth Reentry Council, as well as other Department of Justice departments through that entity.
Neil.
I'm impressed with the numbers that you've been able to, serve. What would you consider to be the capacity that you would have another question. How big could your program get with the resources you have?
I'll be able to match what I did this year. Y'all match my money, I match what I did. No, we really try to be creative with the funding, trying to find those opportunities where it's not as costly. So I'm always online or on the phone, in a meeting, looking at what someone else is doing. What are those programs? You know, how can we stretch our funding? So we'll see. Like I said, a lot of the programs we're bringing online are very cost effective for us. We'll see if our residents respond to that. And if they don't, I don't wait a year. I'm not going to wait, you know, and say, oh, it didn't work and now I've got this money left. No, it gets redistributed to something else. But we have some opportunities. We are looking into a 501c3 so that we can actually go after more funding. That's the biggest thing, is that the city can't apply for a lot of grant opportunities. As you all may be aware, there are a lot of opportunities for workforce development funding, but you need to be a 501c3. We had the ability to create that, to be able to go after those additional funds and then be able to offer those incentives, which is what our biggest piece is understanding that so for our Alice households, especially who are employed, I can't take off work to take a program. So they're going to need some type of stipend to be able to support their household, or the fact that they're going to have to pay someone to babysit their child or something of that nature. So we've got to have some incentives or some stipend opportunity. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is with some grant opportunities that are out there to help supplement the needs. And then the transportation piece, because if you can imagine transporting the individuals for 6 months, 5 days a week, it's going to be very costly for that. So we have to look at that piece of the puzzle as well.
Okay, we're gonna need to move out. You're the last.
Okay.
Well, I'm the last, but you.
First of all, great job. You're doing a wonderful job. There is a population, and I know that's probably not on your radar right now, is the juvenile detention between 16 and 18. When I worked in that field, a high priority, I guess a high number of kids that are in juvenile detention came from the city of Portsmouth. It was in Chesapeake, and probably 65% of the kids came from Portsmouth. Okay, so I don't know in the future if it's possible, because we did offer programs in the detention for kids, and I know it would have to be something that's a virtual situation, where maybe we can attract them into programs that can be done virtually while you have their attention before they get out. Before they get out. So I mean, maybe that's something you can put in your radar for future.
So I have an answer for that. Actually, the Department of Justice actually is providing services and resources to both the juvenile side and the adult side. It actually depends on your level in the facility, what you're able to be provided inside. And so they do prepare for release. And then what they have been doing, once again, they sit on the Reentry Council, which is actually chaired by Social Services and Adult Probation, which we sit on. What they do is when they're getting ready to release, if they have not received services, they notify us and say, we've got individuals that are going to be released. Do you have information that can be provided to them for your services?
I'd like to just recognize Pam and her team, Ms. Briggs and Destiny, for the work that they're doing to support the city's workforce development initiative. I think the numbers reflect the hard work that's gone into this. 468 individuals that have actually completed courses, and a large number of them we do believe are employed right now. We can verify that on many different fronts, but they're working, day in, day out, hands-on with their clients, our residents, to help them get employment. So Pam, I just want to express that we're really appreciative of your efforts and your team's efforts. I also want to thank the EDA and City Council, because without you and your financial resources and commitments, none of this would be possible. So the CDBG funding that the City Council authorizes for the program, the EDA's financial commitment for programming for this space. Without that, we couldn't do any of this. And I just want to say thank you for that. We appreciate that. If you ever have additional resources you want to commit, we're appreciative of that as well. But we're going to continue, getting creative here to try to find other sources of funding, whether that's through our partners like the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, if there's an opportunity to establish, as Pam has alluded to, a 501c3 to pursue grant funds for these programs. We're going to be doing that as well. So stay tuned. You're going to hear more about that. We're going to be pursuing those. So I just wanted to say.
And, one thing that we all got to keep in mind is one of the biggest tragedies of the time we're in is that, these young men especially have to be interested. You can't force them into a classroom, to a program, or down here or there. And I've been involved in a program that Don Roberts started, where we've been in Newport News, juvenile detention, also in Norfolk juvenile detention, and we were all set to go into Chesapeake when the COVID hit. And so we had to go through judges to get that, a group of men that we would go teach chess and mentor to the men. But in talking to some of them, as been said, as Pam said, there's so many different variables that affects people's decisions and reasons why, people are interested, especially young men. There's so many things pulling at them. And that's something that, everybody is struggling with. So, and everybody is justified in what we want to do and propose to do and like to do. But, and maybe, one day we can do it, but it's just a constant struggle that we all deal with now in the times that we're in. So, again, thank you, Pam, for the awesome job that you've done in putting all this together and maintaining it, and the people that you touch, it's just a lot of folks that have come through, and that don't even, it's just making inquiries too. So, and then I also know that there's a big demand in the shipyards, through contractors, where guys that work in there, they also network, and they tell these guys that are just coming out of penitentiary or jail, as long as they don't have any violent offenses, it can be felonies, and these contractors pick them up because they need guys left and right. So that's also a light too, that they get, a good quality job, get good paid money over minimum wage. So yeah, we just gotta, keep on, and I don't want to take y'all to church, but I believe in prayer. So that's also left. Okay, thank you again. Okay. Continuing on, I think we have a need for a closed meeting.
Yes, sir, we do. I do believe Vice Chair has.
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A.3 for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding opportunity acquisitions, 710 Lincoln Street, and establishing purchase prices.
Second.
Vice Chair Mitchell and Barbara, thank you for the second. Take the roll. Mr. Barber?
Aye.
Ms. Drury?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion Passes. We are now in closed session. Statement when
I hereby move that each commissioner certify that to the best of his or her knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Roll, Mr. Barber,
Aye.
Ms. Drury,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. We are in open session.
Mr. Chairman, forgive me, I have to leave for an appointment. I apologize to you and the board
Yes, sir.
members for
We
leaving early.
good. We don't have to take any votes or anything, so
Good enough.
we will release you.
Thank you, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I have a couple of things I'd like to just hit on, it's not gonna require a lot of discussion, but on,
Wait, first, did you have anything before we get in?
I will have just a few updates under report facts, but no, this is
Okay, all right.
item submitted by commissioners.
Okay, all right.
on the property for resale, is there any way to add some categories next to each property, whether or not it's commercial, real estate, or retail, best usage for that property? Would be helpful. The other thing is that there's a lot of great news about apartment complexes in downtown Portsmouth. So we're really getting a high density. And I guess, would it be worthwhile for us to do some type of study, determine what resources might need? I know we talked a little bit before about a supermarket or some other things to support this higher density that we might be able to leverage, either purchasing some property or some of our existing property. This is always my favorite thing. There are no charging stations anywhere in Portsmouth. And I was wondering if there's any way that maybe we could work with the casino to possibly create a couple of charging stations at their location, only because it's a new construction and it might be something that could be easily done.
You mean for e-vehicles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably gonna do that. I'll double check with them.
Yeah, we can
We-
look into that. I think that's
Yeah,
most
we-
likely in the works.
They have an open house after this, and some of them will be there. We can actually ask them.
And my last thought is, crime in the city of Portsmouth is a big problem. I know we don't need to go over that, but I think all of us have to have some stake in the game in solving this. And so I'm just wondering, is there any way that EDA can think outside of the box to see what role we can play in terms of addressing some of that? I was really impressed with the youth build. But it would be nice to have, like, where is the crime coming from? What age groups? And once we identify the age groups, are there any things that we can do? So for example, there may be some property in an area that has a high crime rate that we could buy a building and bring some of the youth program resources to the community in which there's an issue. You know, I'm not trying to solve the problem, but I'm just saying we all have some stake in this, and it serves our interest for crime not to be on the air all the time in terms of, you know, corporations that want to come to Portsmouth. And
At the last city council meeting, they had a report from Harvard that outlines everything you want to know about crime, where it comes from, the high density areas, the perpetrators, the age, everything you want to know. So it was a PDF that was distributed.
Right here.
It's on the website. It was at a council meeting last Tuesday, and it was the work session, started at 5.
And they addressed all of those.
then I would suggest consideration by Councilman Battle that maybe you bring in a group of stakeholders. It's city council, it's maybe some of the big businesses here, it's EDA, and have a broad discussion about what's in that and what can each of us contribute to addressing some of those
That's
concerns.
actually gonna be worked on too.
I suggested,
They already recommended that.
I suggested to the city council and city manager that with the police department, you have to, in most cities, police departments work independently. And although they have a boss or a supervisor, they pretty much have it their way. But in a city, you have to create goals that you want done, and then you ask for the objectives to meet those goals, and then you ask them for a time frame. Because we do that with every other agency. We say to the attorneys, okay, we want this done this way, y'all put that together, and you got this much time frame. So this is how we have to approach law enforcement. Now, yes, the community has to get involved, and in reference to any law enforcement, the most effective way to combat that is to win the trust of the communities that are having those problems. So I'm a big proponent of community policing, but when you say community policing, that's just a word that most people don't understand. That means when you're in these communities, you're, hi, good morning, how are you? Oh, what are the kids practicing at this evening? Anything I can do to help? So we're gonna have a meeting, and as Mr. Brown said, we had the blueprint for where we're having the problems, what the crime is, what the age, and basically poverty and all that plays a part. But that can't be an excuse because you can't make the money right then. We didn't have the money when I grew up. A lot of us didn't have the money, but we still didn't have the crime because we had everybody putting skin in the game. And we had a law enforcement that folk trusted. When I was working on the police department, we had men that they would tell anything, anytime there was a murder, because they trusted them, because they treated the community with dignity and respect. So we're gonna try and get this meeting together. And of course, we're gonna bring you guys in because all of us need to be involved, and we're gonna set some goals. Let those who in charge come back with some objectives to meet the goals, and then some realistic time frames, and then how everybody can pitch in. We're gonna work that.
And one of her first recommendations was to form a Portsmouth task force of all kinds of business people, police, everybody. So it behooves everyone to get to look at this. This is very comprehensive, and in what she did, she confirmed some things that we already knew, but she also, enlightened us on the numbers and where things were happening at. So on that aspect, that's not something that we need to address as an EDA, other than, if, again, there's various properties out there that are already, Brian can tell you that they're coming to us about it already in Prentice Park and in Brighton and other places. So yeah, is that it?
Mr. Smith, here's a case in point. Y'all just combated crime. When you considered allowing Big Homie to put the building up for the kids.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll just quickly also just share that as part of the city manager's Rock the Block initiative, which is targeting those communities hardest hit by crime and violence, youth violence as well. City staff, including economic development, we are engaged with the communities where those activities are occurring. So I believe Pam in her presentation, Ms. Crimsheet mentioned the fact that we were at a community meeting a couple weeks back. This Thursday, there's a community walk scheduled for the Prentice Park community as part of the Rock the Block initiative. So our team will be on the ground, boots on the ground, promoting the programs and services that we can offer, as will other city departments. So that includes Portsmouth at Work, training programs, employment opportunities, and so forth. So we are in the community. We'll be in the community more. We'll also be targeting our outreach efforts specifically for those communities. So there are efforts to be involved and to help the situation.
Okay, well, you done?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have
Could
any?
I ask, I mentioned to them, I mean, this is mainly for you, Councilman Battle, when we're talking about what we can do, a long time ago, we had talked about a specific building and now it's up in the news, the recreation center in in Port Norfolk. So is there an idea? I mean, because there's so many uses it could be on where that's going.
We're telling,
Yes.
tell them what we're doing.
So council asked that the city manager put out an RFP for the building. It's either going to be an RFP or RFI. And that was request for information and ideas, because together the community has reached out and said that they want it to be, a community center. And then we've had several inquiries from developers who want to make it something else.
Okay.
And so we're just looking for direction and ideas of what would be the best fit for that area. I think council also had some desire to make it, just renovate it and make it a full-blown recreation center again.
That's what I want.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But with everything kind of moving, we just want to get all the ideas and then make the determination what would be best and the community input on what they would like to see.
But I'm one setter, and I'll be using all of my persuasive powers to pull it back, recreation center. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you'll see that coming.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody? Anything you?
We do have a few updates or report backs that I just want to share. The first was a thank you for the attendance of a number of you at last week's Holly Point community ribbon cutting. I believe there were members of the EDA in attendance. Unfortunately, I was not able to join, but my understanding was it was a fantastic event. That is a first-class workforce housing development project in the city, adding 50 new affordable units to our inventory and providing much-needed affordable housing in the community. Amazing transformation of a block that sat vacant in the city of Portsmouth for 20-plus years, and is now a beautiful community offering.
And the fact that he announced that he wants to build another one.
Yes.
In the vicinity.
So thank you for attending that. And again, I think that's just an example of the fact that Portsmouth is a welcoming environment for new housing units to be constructed, and certainly adding to our downtown community. So just wanted to say thank you for that, your attendance. Chairman, you had mentioned the Rivers Casino open house, which is being held today. It's actually started at 11 o'clock this morning, but will run till 1 p.m. That's at 739 High Street, Suite B. And that will be an opportunity to meet with the casino's newest team members and to hear about their new restaurants and amenities that they will be offering at Rivers Casino Portsmouth. So again, 11 to 1 today. If you're able to on the way out, you may want to stop by 739 High Street to say hello and meet their team.
That's where Bloom is, right?
It is right adjacent to Blue. Yes.
Okay.
And then the last announcement I had is we've been contacted by our planning department staff. We have been working closely with them and a consultant, which is Benchmark. They have been tasked with developing the plan for the city's innovation district on High Street. And we've been working closely with them in the early stages of developing that plan. They would like to come before the EDA at your September meeting to make a presentation and get your feedback and input as they're working on crafting this plan for the innovation district. Again, that's the area, it's west of Effingham Street on High, stretching north to London Boulevard and runs all the way to the NLK freeway. So they're working on the plan, but they would like to present to you and get your input at your September meeting. So we'd like to add that to the agenda if that's an agreement. I think it'll be a really informative discussion, and they've got some exciting things planned. The city was recently notified of a recent infrastructure award that was received in the Innovation District to facilitate some improvements on High Street. So a lot of interesting things happening there in the Innovation District. So that will be brought to you in September.
That's the 20th, correct?
That is the 20th.
Yes.
Brian, I know we kind of got on course, but can we also at some point in the next few months go back to adding tourism to as a speaker?
That was on our list.
Yes, I would propose if we could look at maybe the October, November meeting for that. I think your September meeting is going to be a fairly full agenda,
Right.
but we can certainly add tourism as a guest speaker. Following.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's nice. And do we know when the health clinic is supposed to open?
Very soon.
Yeah, they're getting close.
They are, they're just finishing up the work on the building. They've had some delays with supply chain and equipment, but my understanding is they were looking to occupy in August, so a couple of weeks out from the end of August, so very soon. If you could buy it,
They're gonna do a ribbon
oh,
cutting.
they certainly will.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the services.
Yes, and, you know, they're operating currently in, you know, their current location on Lincoln Street, but we'll then move everybody over and commence operations on High Street. If you've been by recently, you've seen probably the transformation there in that block. It looks amazing. They're finishing it up right now, and hopefully in a couple weeks they'll be up there. Nothing further.
Anyone else? Thank you again for coming, and meeting is adjourned.